3 and 4, it's me, Mr. A, back with story time for another day, and we're going to carry on with Adolphus Tips. So, Thursday, December 30th, 1943. I still can't find Tips. I've been looking for her all day today, and all yesterday too. I looked in every barn, every shed. Grandfather opened up the house again for me, and I went into every room, up into the attic too. I looked in all the cupboards, just in case she'd got herself shut in by mistake. Grandfather even climbed up a ladder to look in the roof valleys. I wandered the fields, tapping her bowl with a spoon, calling and calling, then listening for her. All I could hear were cawing crows and the sound of the wind in the trees, and the rumble of a tractor engine in the distance. Once they'd driven the cows and sheep up the lane to Uncle George's, everyone came back to help me. Mrs. Bloomfield went off to search the village on her bike with Barry on the back. They didn't find Tips, but they did find lots of Yanks. They were all over the place, they said, in lorries and jeeps, and some of them in tanks. Mum still says I'm not to worry. Grandfather says that cats have 9 lives, that Tips will turn up as she always does, and it's true, she always has, but I do worry. I can't think about anything else now except Tips. She's out there somewhere in the night, cold and wet, hungry and lost, and I've only got 1 more day to find her before they close off the farm. I'm going to get up early tomorrow. Barry says he'll come with me. We're going to look and look until we find her, he says. I'm not coming back to Uncle George's until I do. Our farm looked strange when I went back today, so empty and silent. A phantom farm, a house full of ghosts. Be there tomorrow, Tips. Please be there, it's your last chance. Friday, December 31st, 1943. I never want to live another day like this. I think I knew right from the start we wouldn't find her. There were too many people out looking. I knew they would only frighten her away, and they did. If it had just been Barry and me and Mum and Grandfather, maybe we'd have found her. Tips knows us. It wasn't her fault. Mrs. Bloomfield was only trying to be helpful, but she'd gone and told everyone how Tips was lost, and she'd brought practically the whole village along with her. She was there at dawn organising the search. The Yanks came too, dozens of them. Adie and Harry telling them all the places they had to look. They combed the whole farm, every barn, every feed bin, every corner of every field, all along the stream. They went searching down in the bluebell wood, down in the disused quarry, and I went with them, trying to tell them all the time to go more quietly. Just look, not call out. But it was no use. I could hear them all over the farm, banging tins, trying to call her, trying to sweeten Tips in. All morning long it drizzled, and in the afternoon a sea mist came rolling in over the fields and covered the whole farm in thick fog, so you couldn't see further than a few feet in front of you. There was no point in even looking anymore. We listened instead, but there was nothing to hear. Even the crows were silent. I think I've been crying off and on all day as the hours passed and hope faded. Barry kept on and on telling me he was sure we'd find her sooner or later, and in the end I got cross and shouted at him, which I shouldn't have done. He was only trying to cheer me up, trying to be nice. That's the trouble with him, he's always trying to be nice. Uncle George just said that a cat's a cat, and there are other cats I can have, which didn't exactly help. It was nearly dark when one of the Yanks with upside-down stripes on his arm said he was sorry, but they had orders to close the place off now, so we had to leave. Adie came up and gave me some chocolate. "Hershey bar," he said. "It'll make you feel better. And don't you worry, Nan Lily. I ain't making no promises, but if that old cat's still living out there, we're going to find her, one way or the other. You can be real sure of that. So don't you worry, Nan Lily, you hear?" They closed the barbed wire behind us then, cutting us off from our home and from Tips. I promised myself as I watched them that I would go back and find her, and I will too. I will. I gave Barry my Hershey bar to make up for being so mean to him, and we ate it before we got back to Uncle George's. Adie was right. It did make me feel better, but I think that was more because I gave half of it to Barry. I'm coughing a lot, and I'm feeling hot and sweaty all over. I have been ever since we got back. Mum says I've caught a chill and that I have to stay in bed tomorrow, else I'll get it onto my chest. I hate it today, every horrible minute of it, except for Adie and the Hershey bar. The only hope I've got left is that maybe, just maybe, Adie and Harry might still find Tips. I've got this feeling they might. I don't know why. One thing's for sure though, if they don't find her then I'm going to crawl in under the wire and find her for myself. no matter what they say. They can put up all the barbed wire they like. They can shoot all the shells they want. Nothing's going to keep me out. I'm never ever going to give up on Tips. Never. Wednesday, January 12th, 1944. This is the first time I've felt like writing in my diary for days. Mum was right, I did catch a chill that day when we were looking for Tips, and it did go to my chest. Mum told me I had a temperature of 104 for nearly a week, and the doctor had to be called because I became delirious. That sounds like it means I was just happy. I certainly was not. It meant I was out of my head, and I must have been because I remember very little. I only remember bits of the last few days. I remember Barry coming in after school and telling me what the new school in Kingsbridge was like and giving me get well cards from Mrs. Bloomfield in the class. I remember waking up to see Grandfather and Mum sitting in the chair watching me, or just sitting there sleeping. And from time to time I could hear the murmur of voices downstairs and Uncle George blowing his nose like a foghorn. I'm much better now, but Mum says I've got to stay inside for at least another week. Doctor's orders, she says, but I think they're just her orders. She always gets very fierce and strict with me when I'm ill. She's been feeding me soup and then sitting and watching me just to make sure I finish it. She makes me eat stewed apple every day and I have to drink lots of warm milk with honey in it. She knows I hate milk, but now she's got the perfect excuse to make me drink it. It'll build up your strength, Lily, she says. Drink it. And she always stays until I do. As for Tips, there's still no sign of her. No one has been back to look for her, of course, but I haven't given up. I still keep hoping she's all right, that one day she'll come and find us. She's a good hunter, she can take care of herself. She knows warm places to go. I try to hope and believe that Adi will find her somehow, but when I think about it again, I know he won't. I keep thinking of her lying dead in some ditch. I try not to think like that. I try so hard. As soon as I'm better, I'm going to go looking for her. I promised myself I would, and I will. Mum came up today and read me a letter from Dad. It's such a long time since I saw him, I find it difficult to see his face in my head anymore. I tried to hear his voice as she was reading the letter, but I couldn't. He says they had corned beef and tinned potatoes for Christmas lunch, and they wore paper hats made out of newspaper, sang Christmas carols and thought of home. He sounded so sad and far away. When Mum finished reading, she was sad too. I could tell she wanted to cry, but she wouldn't let herself. Alright, that's it for today. I'll be back again tomorrow with some more. Have a great day, everybody, and take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.